Hello, everyone. Do I have the presentation? Just check. Okay. Thank you for joining me today for my session, which will be, as Rado said, about building strong teams. And this is a thing that I've been doing for the past few years as part of Točka 2. We are trying to help people do better work together. And today, I want to share with you some practices, 5 to be exact, that on one hand are solutions to the most common issues that the teams are facing, and on the other are actionable, so you can try them out tomorrow. So my goal for the talk today is to present to you a field guide or a toolbox that you can try. And when speaking about strong teams, many give the Navy SEALs, these specially trained soldiers, as great example for strong teams. And to understand why, let me illustrate it with an example. Consider that we're observing a mission in a war zone where there are 2 teams working in this mission. One team is a so-called Special Forces team, and the others are the Navy SEALs, the Navy SEAL team. And both of those teams' commanders are communicating with their teams, respectively, through radio, and they're looking on a video monitor with a feed from a drone above the battlefield. And what you can observe is that one of the commanders is constantly giving directions. He's always saying, look out for this, go into that direction, go, 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 while the other is silent. He doesn't say a word. Throughout the whole mission, he doesn't say any word. This is the Navy SEAL commander. And when you ask this Navy SEAL commander, why are you not helping your guys? He would answer, because I don't need to. Because my guys are perfectly capable of solving any complex tasks on their own, and they can complete any mission in any unknown environment. And to understand why this commander is so confident that his team is capable of doing so, we have to look at the way they train the Navy SEALs. And this is a picture of a typical exercise of the Navy SEALs. And I want to share with you some of the main aspects of their training program that we can extract and map it to our world, in the IT world, the way we develop teams. The way the training starts, it is called Hell Week, because there is 1 week of very intense training that feels like hell. And what happens is that the soldiers, the potential Navy SEALs, are put in a real-life environment, physical real-life environment close to a battlefield, and the scenarios that they are trying to solve is really as close as possible to the real world. After this 1 week passes, only 1/3 of the people remain, only 1/3 of the soldiers remain as part of the program. And you could consider that this selection cut, that only 1/3 remain, is the foundation of creating great teams. But I argue, and I suppose many of you have seen teams with great individuals, with great individual skills that are not really acting as great teams. And the next part, when the 1/3 of the soldiers remain, is really crucial for them becoming great at teamwork, because Navy SEALs really train for teamwork. And what happens is that first they are separated into teams of 6, and they train for the next 8 to 10 weeks. They train as a team. All their exercises, they train those 6 guys throughout the whole training. And moreover, the training itself, the exercises, they are team-based. There is no training for individual skills. All the exercises are team-based. And you can see those wooden telephone posts. They are around 130 kilograms weighing. It seems simple, but one example of an exercise to move this from point A to point B. As simple as this. But you cannot do it on your own. You have to have all the people working together. But there is no one strategy to do this. There is no one way. And this is similar to what we have in the IT world. There is no one way to build a software. There are various ways. And what happens is that during this training and these exercises is that people fail a lot. And they, at some point, learn that they have to really care for each other and to see when someone is about to make a mistake, they call it micro events, when someone is about to make a mistake, for the other to balance and to act upon this. And after every exercise, this is the second important aspect of their training, after each exercise, they do what they call an after-action review. An after-action review is basically a discussion which happens right after the action, right after the mission, right after the exercise, and for everyone to share their observations with each other. What went well and what went wrong. So, if we translate this to our IT world, I think that we really don't train our teams. I think that yes, we work together, we do teamwork, but we are focused on the work. We don't put ourselves in a training environment with the intent to learn, and the closest to this training environment is when we go to make some team building events. For example, when the team is going to Legion run, or on a paintball game, or if we go to an escape room, we put ourselves as a team in an environment that we have to work together to complete the task, but we do it with the intent to have fun. And if we take these games, these team-based games, and this is my first tool for today, which I encourage you to try out, try to use those team-based games with the intent to learn. So if we use any team-based game and go with the intent to learn and do an after-action review afterwards, there is a greater way for us to build our team stronger. And after-action review, this is a way to bring issues on the surface. It is one way to do it after we complete a task, a mission, or whatever. But there is another way to share feedback between team members, and I think this is an issue in our teams because there usually are times where everyone knows about an issue, but nobody's talking about it. And the reason for this is the way we receive feedback. But let me first give you an example. I call this the Joker example. Imagine that in our team there is one guy who is always joking around. He always tries to brighten up the mood, whatever the situation. So we have a production defect now. We have to fix it in 15 minutes, otherwise we'll have issues with our customers. But the guy will say, let's go to lunch, this will wait. So we have one guy who is always trying to be not serious, and usually, and I've seen this a lot, there is always one other guy who is the serious guy, who is focused on the work. He wants to get the job done, and then relax. And what happens in these situations is that those guys could clash, and there could be a conflict, and this could trigger issues within the team. And you could try to give feedback to the not so serious guy, and I imagine that you have in your mind people who you have tried to give feedback to correct the behavior and to say this is not okay, but then nothing happens. You have tried it again, but nothing happens. So why so? Because when you give feedback, the person receiving the feedback should be open-minded about receiving critique about himself or his behavior. And that's why at some point people say, okay, I'll leave it at it. I will live with this issue and will not fix it. And those issues pile up. You have several issues within your team that if not addressed, you have issues, you have problems. And there's one simple way to address these things and to really discuss problems within your team, and it is by reversing the way you share feedback. Not by giving feedback, but by receiving feedback. And I want to share with you one exercise that you can do with your teams, which is called the anxiety party. An anxiety party is basically when everyone gathers around in a room with the idea to share their working anxieties. And by working anxiety, I mean things that I do that I think affects the others, that bothers the others, that annoys the others. So, to give you an example with myself, when I listed some working anxieties, I know that I'm a little bit pushy in a working environment. So whenever I complete a task, or when my team completes a task, I want to ship it, I want to release it right away. I don't want to wait one night to sleep it over. Oh, no, I want to ship it right away. And I've seen that sometimes this annoys people, but I was wondering, really, does it annoy that much? So those are you see there are numbers here. When everyone lists the exercise goes like this. Everyone lists their anxieties, and they go one by one, sharing one anxiety. And then the others score with a number from 0 to 5. 0 means it's not a problem, or I haven't seen this at all. And 5 means, yes, I've seen this, and yes, it bothers me a lot, and I'll kill you. So you receive those numbers, and you get a good picture. This is a reality check for you to see what the others think. And then you go into a discussion mode. You discuss a bit what everyone meant by 0 or by 5. And usually what happens is that when people share their anxieties, either they receive really valuable information that they didn't thought about. In my case, some of the people said, yes, you are pushy, but this is great for the good of the goals of the team. But there are few guys that said, uh-oh, no. There are times for less critical tasks that you should not be that pushy. So one thing is, when you ask for feedback, you're by default open-minded. You're asking for the other's opinion. So you really are not, there are fewer barriers for receiving feedback. Yes, this exercise is not happy place, but it is really what builds the trust between team members, because everyone is vulnerable by saying, I'm worrying about this thing. And the other thing that happens is when you share something that you're worrying about and all the others are saying zeros and ones. You're worrying about something that the others don't care. So you should focus your attention or worries to something else. So about this anxiety party, this is a great way to bring issues. And usually when teams start doing this, they start with very trivial problems. They're not deep problems that they want to share, but they start with very trivial problems. And one by one, they really start going into the depth of the issue. So that's the way they bring the real issues on the surface and start talking about them. And when we discuss issues, it's great that we bring issues to the surface. And the next thing that we should do, and this is the next tool that I will share, is how to solve those problems or those issues. And I think we, I think I have one slide with a key point here, use anxiety party. So whenever we have the issues and try to solve them, I think we as humans tend to be poor in solving issues. And Matthias in the keynote shared his ideas about heuristics. And this is what really we do in terms of solving issues. We jump to conclusions. And to illustrate this, let me tell you about an experiment I do during our trainings, and I recently did it in LinkedIn as well. I share an ending of a story and ask everyone to ask me any questions about the pre-story or what happened before this ending of a story. So I ask me anything, so for you to understand what happened, what led to this ending of a story. And I do this to observe. I want to see whether people will really analyze the issue or the ending of the story, or would they test their own hypotheses, own theories. And let me just share with you the story, the ending of the story. It states, the phone was ringing, the boy answered it and started listening. At some point, the smile on his face disappeared, and when it was time for him to speak, he didn't say a word. Now, I imagine that some of you already have ideas about what happened before that. And that's the problem with solving issues. When you have issues within your team, people tend to have ideas right away and have solutions right away. They have their own heuristics implicitly in their mind, and they start from their own experiences and try to connect the dots with their own experiences to the ending of a story. So illustrated, it looks like this. If we have 5 people, they have their own experiences, and they try to reach this red circle, this ending of a story, this problem. They're thinking, maybe, and I've received several questions, was the boy supposed to answer the phone at all? Was he just helping other people? Or was he supposed to translate this information? So he was supposed to answer the phone, but it's not, it's just a proxy. He's just a proxy to translate this. Was this in a home environment? Or was it in a working environment? Was it in Bulgaria? Was it in China? I received a question, was it in China? And I was wondering, why would he be in China? So the idea here is that when we test our theories, we are not really trying to understand the problem. And a 3-year-old, my son is 3-year-old, he will do a better job in analyzing this problem because he will start with the question, why? Why is the sky blue? I don't know why is the sky blue. But he's really wondering, and he's really interested in the things that he's analyzing. Why? And this question, why, is, I think many of you have heard about the 5 why analysis, which is the tool that I'll share now and urge you to try. The 5 why analysis, it comes from Toyota and the lean management. And it is an instrument or a tool that you can use whenever you have issues to be analyzed. And the 5 why analysis is basically saying 5 times why. And let me illustrate it with this example. Why was the boy not saying a word? Because he didn't know what to say. Why he didn't know what to say? Because he didn't understand some of the words that he heard, and he didn't know what's expected from him. Why? Well, because he didn't have experience and he wasn't trained for those specific situations. And why? Because this was his first job that he just started 2 weeks ago. And this example is a real one. This happened to me when I started my first job 15 years ago. And I was part of a development team for a project for a multinational company. We were several development teams throughout Europe. And a French guy called me and told me, Harry, the production server is down. And I was acting somewhat of a second-level support in this project. And I really didn't say a word. But fast forward 4 months later, I had my annual review, annual assessment, and I received the feedback, Harry, you should improve your English, because you didn't know what to say, so that's why you didn't say anything. You don't know English. But the issue was, I didn't know what production meant. I didn't know what server meant. I really had some vague understanding of those things, and I didn't know what to do. So that's why 1 minute I was, sorry. When you have issues that are affecting the whole team, so several team members, or issues that have been there for a few months, try the 5 why analysis, because you will start from the red circle and go back. You will not connect the dots. You will really be interested in what caused the issue. And when we're speaking about issues, the next 2 things and the next 2 tools are related to one of the most common issues within teams, and they're related to team members being not synchronized. This is a typical picture of a common IT team. So we have a few of the guys and girls rowing into that direction and the others rowing into that direction. Those that are rowing in the same direction, one is pushy like me and he's like this, and the other is laid back and he's like this. So this type of desynchronization is what affects performance within teams. And to give you a practical example, let's go 50 years back to Intel. At some point, Intel was in a moment to say, we have to kill Motorola. And a little bit of a context, around the 70s, Intel was one of the pioneers of creating microchip processors. And together with Microsoft and other companies were those who allowed the PC to come to our home environment. So Intel was a leader in producing those chips. But in the late 70s, Motorola, then a bigger brand, a bigger company, started producing a better product. And Intel saw this as a real threat that they will lose the game. So they saw that we have an issue. Motorola is a problem. We have to do something about it. And what they did next was to use one framework or two that really solved their issues. I'll tell you the ending in a minute. They used what's called objectives and key results. Objectives and key results is basically for the team to synchronize each other what their objective as a team in the short term is. So for the next 3 months, we're going to row into that direction, not like this. We are going to row into that direction. And key results are the measurements that we put to test our objective, whether we have reached our goal. So if we go to America, one key result will be not to be in India. That's the way it is. And let me illustrate it with my objective for this toolbox or this field guide that I'm sharing. And my objective is for people to really try this. You hear it today and to try some of the practices that I'm sharing. For me, critical of this objective to be completed, one is, in order for people to try it out, they have to first hear it. So presenting at ISTA is one great way for a few hundred people to listen and to know about it. Second thing is for people to be interested in what I say. So one way I will measure it if people have questions after I finish the talk or later in the panorama room if people come. So this would suggest that people are interested in starting to ask how really to implement this, or I have seen this practice, I've tried it, but I fail, and you're saying it's working. Can you tell me a bit more in this type of situation what to do? So this would suggest that people are interested in this toolbox or this field guide. And the third thing is for if actually people in the near future tell me, Harry, I tried it and it worked or it didn't work. So going back to the Intel example or the Operation Crush, as they call it, to crush Motorola in the business of microprocessing chips. What they do, what they did, Intel, using this objective and key results framework, managed in 2 weeks to do such actions. They focused and aligned their almost entire workforce, which was in 4 continents, spread throughout 4 continents. So they managed to do such actions that they went back into the game, and Motorola couldn't react for a whole 1 year. And what objectives and key results, or OKRs in short, gives you, it gives you 4 superpowers. It allows the team to focus and commit this direction that I used with the boat example. So this is something as a time management instrument. All the teams have a lot of things to do, a lot of important things to do, but if they try to manage them all or complete them all, they will fail. That's why it is critical to assess which is the most important ones. And this is similar we've seen in the Scrum process, for example. We have a great product backlog and we want to put all the features in it, but if we try to stick them right away, we will fail. That's why we do sprints. We focus on what's bringing us most value. The second thing, align and connect for teamwork. And this really synchronizes in the way that we see that all of the people in the team are trying to row the boat in the same direction. They are all putting an effort towards the same thing. Track for accountability is interesting, and I think accountability is difficult within teams. And by accountability, I here mean to challenge ourselves, either I to challenge myself or to challenge others if we are not doing a proper job towards our goal. So if someone is not doing what we agreed on, I will tell him, you're steering the boat in a different direction, come back. And this way of communication, yeah, it again will not be happy talk, but we've already agreed on something. And usually what happens is within teams, people don't agree beforehand. They don't synchronize beforehand about their work or the things that they're going to do. And Stretch for Amazing, it is interesting as well. Objectives and key results, it was initiated in Intel, then popularized at Google, and then it is used from various organizations, not only IT. And they're trying to improve themselves, to improve everything. And one good example is the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. They are using OKRs to eliminate diseases from the world, or from Africa more specifically. So Stretch for Amazing means that when we set our objectives, we don't commit to things that we know we will do and we are capable. We are doing things that are a little bit uncomfortable. We are not absolutely sure that we will make it, but we say we are going to try to make it. So, to wrap up about the objective and key results, whenever you have the feeling that you're pulling towards different directions and you're not synchronized, use this tool to synchronize between yourselves. And the fifth tool is about the thing that I think most teams really are failing, and this is the way they are doing discussions and taking decisions. And I want to first share a bit about a game that we at Touchcad are doing with different teams, and I'll do an after-action review about what you see. This is a game where team is put into a simulated environment, similar to what I said in the first part about team-based games, and they have to solve this complex task, and they have to act as a team, and they fail as a team. And the idea is that if they are not good at decision making, if they are not good at discussing things, then they will fail. If they're a good team, they will succeed. And this is a video, but I want to share with you the basic rules of the game so that you can see the action in a meaningful way. So the game is, if you have a team of 10 people, there are 11 chairs in an empty room. And so there is one chair more to the number of people. And the goal of the team is to not allow an opponent to sit on a chair for 60 seconds. That's it. 60 seconds for this opponent not to be able to sit. And to make it really a challenging task, the idea is there is a rule that states if you're sitting on a chair and if you stand, you cannot sit on the same chair right away. You have to move around, you have to sit on another chair. Then you can go back to the initial chair, but you have to move around. And what happens is that the game forces the team to have some kind of a strategy, because otherwise they will fail, because it's chaotic movement and they're not synchronized and they leave a lot of empty chairs around. And they're forced to actually engage into a brainstorming sessions and to discuss things. The game is iterative. I want to share with you one iteration of a Swiss startup, biotech startup called Skylight, who tried to beat us in the game. The woman in the white shirt is Petya, co-founder of Touchcad, and you see CEOs, CTOs, developers, sales guys moving around, and they try their strategy. And by the reaction of this lady, you will assume that they failed. And the game is iterative, so you have there are two modes. Discussion mode, you try to discuss within the team what's your strategy, and then you try this strategy. And this in the video is an attempt to try their strategy. But what's interesting is the discussion part. What happens in those discussions, and we've seen it in plenty of teams in whatever environment, either leadership teams or development teams, it doesn't matter. What happens is people tend to have ideas. Probably some of you again had some ideas how to solve this task. And they try to sell their ideas. So what happens, and it is typical for brainstorming, is people I have a brilliant idea I want to share with you guys. This is a brilliant idea, let's all try my idea. And everyone is, let's try my idea. And really what happens is people are in a discussion mode to discuss and not to have a solution, not to reach to anything to try. And this is really the challenge. This happens in our environment when we have to think of a architecture, and the keynote was similar. Some guys say we should do it that way, the others are saying we should do it in that way, and the discussion, what happens is people are not listening at all. People tend to disengage in the meeting when there are some vocal guys who are taking the whiteboard and saying we will do it like this, and everyone is okay, we'll wait. And then when you think you have a decision, because the guy on the whiteboard said, everyone clear? Yeah? Let's try it out. And half of the people, they didn't understand a word from this idea. And they fail. So there are a few common issues about having a good decision. First is for people to be heard, to exchange different ideas, then to synthesize those ideas into one strategy, in this case for the game, then for everyone to understand really the strategy, and then everyone to commit to this strategy. So you might know what you're expected from you, but you're still keeping your idea in mind because not everyone heard your idea, and you're thinking this idea will fail, so I'll leave 3 attempts for this idea to fail, and then I'll speak myself again. So having good decisions and good discussion. There is one tool I'm about to share, and it is again linked to synchronize ourselves beforehand about the way we're going to discuss things. The tool is stating that we should have 4 rows. It is called the DASI technique, let's say. It has 4 rows: a driver, approver, contributors, and informed. And I'll go one by one about each. So before we start any critical discussion, we say, who is the driver? Who will be the one who will lead us to actually having a decision, not only to discuss things. Maybe this will be the person who will facilitate the meeting and see who are the people who are disengaged in the meeting, who are the people that were interrupted, who are the ones that are talking most of the time and no one else is talking. So he will act as a facilitator during the meeting, but as a whole, he will be responsible to and be focused on having a decision, a united decision. Approver, this is the person who actually decides, single person who actually decides. It doesn't have to be the leader, the one with the most authority. It has to be one person. Contributors, those are the people who are with experience about the matter that is discussed, and they have voice, so they should express their own ideas about solving this problem, but they don't vote. The approver decides. So imagine that before you start any discussion, you sign a blank sheet of paper that Pesho will be the one deciding, not you that have great ideas. And informed, the last row, and I'll then briefly go into some examples. Informed are all the people that should know about the decision so that they can implement this decision. They are affected by this decision. And now you can imagine various decisions that you have participated in, and probably, let's take the informed. Probably either you or some other people were not informed in the right moment, maybe at all. They've just, the decision just happens on them. Maybe you've participated in meetings where people should be informed only and not participate in a meeting and not waste their time being in a meeting room and waiting for all the others to think of the decision and just say it. So maybe those guys should be out of this meeting room and focus on their work and then just say, okay, we have a new decision, just to be informed. There are times where people who should contribute are not involved into the discussion. And when this happens is someone decides, okay, we 2 people will decide something, and then we'll spread it out to the team. And then some of the people will say, why was not I involved in this discussion? So using DASI, you will synchronize each other beforehand who will do what, and you will sign on this. And if we map this to the game, whenever we introduce DASI or similar structured approach of discussing things and having a decision, people tend to win the game. So whenever you have to, whenever you have important decisions to make, think about who should really contribute, who should be informed, and who should be the one deciding. And again, it's not always the leader of the group that should decide. To sum everything up, and I saw some of you guys took a snapshot, this is the most important slide that wraps up everything. Whenever you want to improve your teamwork, put yourself in this simulated environment into a game mode and do it with the intent to learn. Have an after-action review afterwards, have this discussion. Whenever you want to share feedback or to bring issues on the surface, try anxiety party. Whenever you have issues to solve, do a 5-why analysis so that you can be objective and find the real root cause. And whenever you feel that you're rowing the boat into different directions and you're not synchronized between the team members, try the objectives and key results. And when you feel you're poor decision making, do the DASI. Thank you all for having me. I believe we're good on time.
Yeah.
So please help me with my key results and have some questions. Great. Can you have a microphone?
Thank you for the good presentation. I like the anxiety game really a lot, and I will try it with my team. My question is, should the lead of the team or the manager participate by sharing his anxieties, or he should only observe and facilitate?
Well, it's a great question. Thank you. And we always have such questions about whether a leader should participate in a game to improve the team or not. Well, the first question is, does the leader feel as part of the team? If yes, then yes, he should be part of this anxiety party. And even if he is not part of a team, usually leading the way and sharing his anxiety allows for this this instrument to work, because teams build trust by sharing something from their inner world. They are vulnerable to the others. And usually when the leaders start and saying, guys, I think I'm too pushy with you and whatever, and they're, yes, you are, this allows for the others to share real issues that they have. So I encourage you to try it with the leader involved. There are 2 questions here, so first the lady.
Thank you for the lecture, and my question is, how do you deal with manipulation?
It depends. So can you give me some sort of a context? Manipulation in terms of what? Someone, okay, he's not honest and trying to do something else, but can you give me a context too?
For example, in an anxiety party,
Yeah.
You have, by definition, it's expected to have people being open-minded and not afraid being vulnerable.
Yeah.
How about somebody who knows well the idea of anxiety party, and his idea is not to be vulnerable.
Okay, he will not
the
share.
The idea is to assert control.
Okay, to assert control. Okay.
Take control over the situation.
Okay, one thing. I've seen people who don't want to be vulnerable, yes, and they will usually not share a real problem. For example, this Joker example, in one team, this was the trivial issue that the person shared. He didn't want to open up, so he shared, is it a problem that I joke around? And he was a little bit amazed that some of the people said yes. So those people will not be that fully committed to this discussion. But the interesting part is that the others will share their opinion, and they will put something on the table. And when you're in this mode and you have said beforehand that it is okay for people to share what they think, then this guy will hear what the others think. But the most important thing, if he's not open-minded, he will not hear it. But the others will hear what they think about the same issue. And usually with anxiety party, you see that what the others are thinking. And when you see that 8 people are thinking the same thing about an issue, then the effect of the groups will affect this person, even on a smaller trivial issue. And yes, he might not participate at all, and it will be, let's say, not that meaningful for this person or for the others that this person is participating. Now, if you mentioned something about control, so maybe one guy will try to put his opinion on top of everyone's.
You are getting close.
Hmm?
You are getting close to
okay.
what I have.
Please help me.
My question is more like somebody who is capable of listening.
Okay.
And can process the information. And after that, when that's used to manipulate the opinion of the group to a certain direction, which is not necessarily the direction that was chosen when you agree on a task.
Is this, and this is outside of the anxiety party?
Yeah, this is
okay.
already outside.
Because just to mention something important about the anxiety party, if you've played Dixit, it's similar, because when you bring issues on the surface and if you have people don't know each other's score beforehand, so they're really authentic in their scoring, and you might have someone who will try to manipulate, and if you do the scoring open-carded, so if I see that Peshu is saying 5, and then I might change my mind to say 5. But when I see that only one person is affected by an issue and not all the others are not, then taking whatever is discussed during the anxiety party out of context and applying it further in a different discussion, it's difficult. It's difficult to apply it. It might happen. If a person is that skillful, he will manipulate it. And we can go deep dive into this question if you want later on, so that we can have more.
Yeah, it will be interesting for me. Thank you.
There is one more question there.
So thanks for the presentation, Harry. So my question is, let's suppose that we are a team and we are poor at decision making, okay?
Okay.
And we decide to use DASI.
Okay.
So we first have to decide which one should go in which role. So how we are going to decide it as we are poor in decision making?
Yeah, that's the issue with whatever decision making tool you use. You have to decide about the decision.
Harry, sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah.
Would you try to answer as quick as possible and then to follow up?
Okay, not to follow this minute here. Yeah. Okay, so we don't have any time. I'll try to answer quickly. Well, people, what tends, you will be amazed by the number of people who will say, I just want to be informed, leave me out of this decision, just say it to me. So there are a lot of people that are saying, oh, yet another meeting, I don't want to be in a meeting. So you will be amazed how many number will say, okay, I'm informed, get me out of this mess. There will be people who say, I really want to contribute, and the most struggle will be who will be the approver. And you can start by default by the leader. So the way you're doing it currently, there is always one person who you will escalate to whenever you have issue in deciding. Start by this. This is the easiest way to do it. And afterwards, you will see that this leader is not necessary for all the decisions. So if anyone wants to have more questions, I'll be right away in the panorama room. Take your coffee and water with you. Thank you.